Yo, what's good, y'all? In this video, we reacting to Dragon Ball GT, The Honest Truth by Seth the Programmer. So I haven't watched any of this video yet, but I'm just assuming that it's an analysis on GT. Because GT, in my opinion, is very overhated. I don't think GT is better than Super. Do not think that. But I also think that GT is very overhated. It's been a while since I watched GT, though. I watched it when I was about like 9, so let's just get into this video. Maybe
Dragon Ball GT is an interesting series. It is pretty commonly considered one of the worst pieces of Dragon Ball ever crafted.
See, one of the worst, like, that's not crazy to say. Just because it's one of the worst does not mean it's bad.
Yet people have many places in their hearts for it. Super Saiyan 4 and all of those old video games. It felt like it fit, didn't it? It didn't feel contrived or out of place. It felt strangely comfortable in the series, like it made sense.
See, one thing I think is that I feel like if GT was canon, it fits better with the main timeline than Super does. I feel like Super should not have been canon, because Super kind of just started doing its own thing with like God Key, like all of that crazy stuff, angels, all of that. I feel like Dragon Ball GT fits more.
Yeah, GT was so negatively seen despite this. I myself felt this way, and it just didn't make sense to me. Why did GT feel so right and so wrong? So, before we start, I would like to tell you about today's sponsor of this video, ExpressVPN. Find ExpressVPN. Blah blah, and in conclusion, I would say that was my first time I've ever actually seen GT genuinely. Now I've seen GT, but I mainly watched it in English dub, or maybe saw some screenshots in the original Japanese for like scaling or something. And I had to learn the hard way that the English dub of GT might just be the worst dubbing of an anime I almost have ever.
By the way, I didn't watch the English dub. I watched it in sub, because when I watched it, it didn't have it in dub. Or maybe it didn't, I was just stupid. I also was a little kid, so.
Seen, and how it completely changed everything about it. I'll even say the same to all of you. If you've only seen the dub,
I'm gonna definitely have to rewatch it.
Probably...
Oh, ew! Pilaf is so ugly! Ew!
Ew! Now, I'm not saying this to be like an elitist. Oh, well, the sub voices and music are just superior, because I don't actually feel that way. And I love the English voices of Dragon Ball, even the Goofy Grand Tour opening. But I'm going to say that they are completely different in terms of what story and feelings they convey very extremely. Take, for instance, Sin Shenron. Listen to this line after Sin leans his head on Goku's shoulder.
That was a foolish place to put the Dragon Ball. Now I'll have to rip your head off to get it.
Yeah, pretty demonic, evil, and brutal, right? Now listen to how he sounds and says this in Japanese. A very different tone, right? He goes from pure evil demon man to almost like a old and wise dragon warrior guy, which is what he is. But this goes very, very deep in many scenes that I'm going to go over. Now, I don't want this video to be about dubism, but I just wanted to make that clear as an introduction to people that may have only seen the English dub, to sort of get their attention and bring some awareness. And with that out of the way, let's begin. The first thing you'll notice about GT is it has a very warm, wholesome energy to it, with a lot of that original Dragon Ball mysticism that gave it this vibe that you'll be reading sort of a legendary tale of some kind. The artwork is very beautiful, and the opening best shows this. Compare just the raw art pieces and paintings in GT to most Dragon Ball media, and you'll see that this has something special. With most of the series...
He's speaking facts right now. He's speaking straight facts. This should be objective. I don't see how anybody could disagree with what he's saying.
He's being very, very on model, and many of the characters just talking normally, feeling like art has been commissioned for a video game render almost all the time. It looks good, and while that may seem irrelevant, I think bringing that up is important. The quality does drop around Super 17 Saga though, and starts to pick back up around the Shadow Dragons, and while I'll go over Super 17 and my issues with it compared to the rest of GT soon, for basically the first 40 episodes, this anime is almost like a moving painting. It's usually very visually appealing, and I think that's important for a lot of people, because you'll notice a lot of these people often mistake art and animation, and when they see bad art in their anime, they usually gripe or point it out.
Nah, that looks terrible. But like, people act like this is the animation throughout all of Dragon Ball Super. Like, the animation isn't always like this. Like, it could get pretty bad sometimes, but it's really, I feel like that's another thing about Dragon Ball Super, is definitely overhated with the animation. I think it's overhated in general.
Out a lot, and GT,
the animation
since it
is not that
good
terrible.
in this category,
Constantly.
I think deserves some more recognition for that before I really get into the story section here.
Also, was it just me? Like, Pan really annoyed me in GT. I don't know if it was just me, but there were some moments where like I would just like get really mad at Pan. Let me know in the comments if you guys
Wise, you'll
agree
see
with
that
that,
GT
'cause
is
I would
sort
get
of
real
Dragon Ball
mad.
personified into a shortened new series where it goes from OG Dragon Ball Adventure vibes to DBZ combat lesson vibes by the end, which is sort of the point I actually imagined. This idea is pretty much all brought together by just the first arc alone, or the first 40 episodes, known as the Baby Arc. We are first introduced to one of the main overarching themes of GT, which is freedom and self-discovery. Freedom is especially important, so keep note of that, and these themes are what introduces us to our main
that
new
little
cast,
robot used to be a
Pan,
demon,
Goku's
though.
granddaughter,
I remember that
Trunks,
robot.
Vegeta's son, not the future one, and Goku himself. Now, I'm going to give you guys a bit of a quiz here, and you can pause and think about this yourself if you want. Don't go to the comments. But why do you think these three were chosen to go to space? Why do you think Gohan, Goten, Vegeta, or Piccolo were not brought along instead of Trunks and Pan? Goku, of course, is the main guy. We all know that. But think about that for a moment. Why these three? If you were writing GT and getting paid to do so, why would you ever pick this trio? Surely you'd want Vegeta or Gohan to do something awesome in outer space, right? You could get more moments and hype for your series. Also, why Kid Goku? What? Why would you choose Kid Goku on top of that? Well, these three were chosen for a specific reason. As I said before,
get
GT
to it,
is going
please.
from
Is it
adventure
to-
to
Yeah, maybe it's to create a more nostalgic vibe, you know, like some weaker characters, maybe, you know, bring an OG Dragon Ball vibe.
combat styles of later
maybe,
Dragon
maybe
Ball
not.
slowly. The adventure starts with these guys because they are the ones who desire freedom the most in adventure. Pan wants to prove
I like that thinking right there. Set W analysis. I'm not going. That's why you making the video and I'm reacting. You feel me? I would not have been able to analyze that. That's
adult,
a W
like her
analyzation.
grandfather, Mr. Satan, always assures her of. And Trunks wants to be free of his job and mundane responsibilities. And Goku just wants to be free in general. Goku is particularly interesting, so let me break down the other two first. Pan now wears red and orange like Goku used to, while Goku dons more calmer and original colors like he used to as a child. Pan is basically the new star of the show, the one that is learning about herself and changing the people around her like Goku used to. And at the start of GT, we see a bank robbery in progress in which Goku is just eating ramen and telling everyone to stop bothering him, and even after explosions and shots are fired, he's only bothered by people disturbing him while he eats, or debris literally getting in his food. He only gets up to stop these robbers after they quite literally blow up the building he's eating in, basically forcing him to get mad and involved. Otherwise, he just wanted to relax and do his own thing. He's not technically like a superhero. He's not Great Saiyaman or something. This is very important, and I know it seems stupid, but it is setting up the whole series for this dude, and I'm not joking. Pan, on the other hand, actively comes in to stop the robbers while people call her a kid and tell her to stay back. Funny enough, she tries to spring into action before Goku does, an adult who looks like a kid. And later in the series, when the three of them are on Planet Mecha, and the people there are clearly being ruled by an insane dictatorship that is putting almost the entire planet into a state of poverty. Goku doesn't seem to really note this, nor really seem to even care after it's brought up to him actually directly. And Trunks, on the other hand, thinks that it is their planet and their rules and culture, and they shouldn't interfere with that. Pan doesn't like this and makes it her task to actually save the planet and convince the others to help her do so, which they eventually do. She has a heroic spirit like her father and mother, and is more proactive while representing the third generation. She also gives developments to Trunks to get him to eventually also become proactive, which he does alongside Giru on M2 to actually save the entire galaxy. So while Pan is clearly the main character, why not have Gohan come instead of Trunks? Gohan is pretty similar to Pan, however, he would completely shatter the dynamic of the story. He wouldn't really allow...
Look at me, look mad serious. Bro, I don't take you serious, though. My ugly ass glasses. Look like a nerd. I'm sorry. I just had to pause and really acknowledge that. You look crazy.
Pan
right
to
now,
shine or grow in her own way,
God.
and Pan would be more keen to listen to him as well, which would cause a lot of the dramatic moments to cease and become a lot more boring. Trunks and Pan also represent the second and third generation alongside Goku, the first generation. As GT is a story about family, this generational line is important, and Goku is sort of atop it all. Trunks being the next generation of Vegeta and Bulma, being able to operate the ship and all the machines and so forth. One thing about Pan and Trunks you'll notice going into this is that Pan doesn't respect Trunks at all, and despite Trunks being pretty definitionally a good respectable adult, which Pan seems to want to be, unlike say Goten, which is another reason Goten wasn't brought along, as Trunks highlights what it means to be an adult to Pan more. Goku's turned into a child also for this reason. For one, it nerfs his abilities a bit, so he can't just say instant transmission around the story and ignore having to interact with everything, but it also makes Pan not respect him or acknowledge him as an adult despite him acting exactly how he would as an adult anyway. To Pan, Trunks is too much of a stick in the mud and Goku is just too nonchalant. They aren't what Pan wants to be. And
Goku does not care at all. That's funny, like, bro, Goku's such a W character, I swear.
Like I said, this story is about freedom and self-discovery.
Some of y'all need to be like Goku,
discovering this about herself, which is something that Goten, Vegeta, and Gohan wouldn't really be able to add to the adventure story as much as Trunks. However, Pan eventually learns the things she does like about Goku and Trunks, which is Goku's reliability when it really counts, and how smart and reliable Trunks can be, as well as his willingness to change and adapt despite them having qualities she doesn't actually really enjoy. Giru also brings this to the table, as most people consider Pan annoying.
Yes, sir!
Like Bulma used to be back in the day. So Giru, who is also annoying and loud, is then shown doing things highly competently and respectably, to the point that Pan goes from thinking he is a pest to a reliable friend. Trunks also sort of drops a red pill that he thinks AI are like people to Pan early on, which sort of invites the idea of her finally accepting Giru as a real friend that can just not be a black and white robot, which is sort of foreshadowing for his fake betrayal in M2. With Giru, a robot programmed to listen to Dr. Mew and Rildo's commands, quite literally breaking his programming and betraying his whole planet because of his friendship with Pan, which just sort of goes back into that whole like nature nurture theme that Dragon Ball loves to spam. But Goku really doesn't change too much from when GT first starts. Trunks and Pan don't really change his personality too much at first, but Goku has changed since Dragon Ball Z quite notably. You'll notice that Goku really is carefree. This change in his character is also highlighted best by his physical change into a child. Goku is once again like a carefree child. Even throughout many scenes in GT where it seems like Goku is struggling, say against Legic, Lord Lude, the M2 robots, or whatever have you, Goku is actually never once even remotely trying at all. He's just sort of having fun with it, and he even says this at one point. And it also seems like he wants to teach the others and help them grow as well doing it, which is what Vegeta kind of wanted. Not even using a real hint of his real power until the M2 Commandos, who is what Vegeta. And it also seems like he wants to teach the others and help them grow as well doing it, which is
oh my god,
what Vegeta kind of wanted. Not even using a real hint of his real power until the M2 Commandos fuse together, and when he has to face General Rildo, and even Trunks then implies he hasn't actually been this excited in a long time until he actually sees Rildo as well, implying he also may as well have been goofing off the whole time. Even when Sun fights Rildo, he starts messing around with him, a guy that's way stronger than Majin Buu, his strongest adversary ever at this point. But why is Goku so relaxed? Is it because he's super strong and has no worries? No, that can't be it. As in the baby arc, and even in Super 17, Goku is just smiling and laughing about how much fun he had, or how impressed he is, as he is literally going to be vaporized, killed, and sent to the afterlife. So no, the strength isn't it. The difference is that Sun's arc in Z has pretty much concluded. His pursuit of happiness, his discovery of himself, and even his final wish of fighting Majin Buu again.
See, this is why I think that GT should have been canon instead of Super, bro. Super, it just get Super out of there in terms of just, you know, developing Goku's character further. It's kind of just doing its own thing. I feel like that's not crazy to say, because just based off of everything Seth is seeing, you could just tell like they really put work into, you know, developing GT. You feel me? Like, definitely it's giving me a better perspective, you know. I never really thought about it like that. I mean, I did think about it like that, but he's adding more onto my thoughts, if that makes sense.
And as a good person, all granted and completed. Dragon Ball finished, basically. He's done everything he wants to. He doesn't need to do anything else in his mind. And while him loving fighting strong people is still his dream, he's already done pretty much all he wanted to in his mind. He's getting older now and is starting to get to almost 50 years old, with guys strong like Rildo not appearing for almost decades at a time. It makes sense he'd want to have fun. This would also come back to bite him later though, which we'll get into. This introduces Baby, the first real big antagonist that's been built up this entire adventure.
Baby's low-key a W antagonist.
Despite Goku not caring much about anything, people still care about Goku, whether that be positive or negative. This is one thing he isn't actually free from, and puts his loved ones at risk. This was brought up in the Cell Saga's ending, with Goku asking not to be revived, but it is actually kind of brought up again here. Baby, unlike most villains in Dragon Ball, straight up has an almost realistically understandable motive. Not to say everyone in Dragon Ball isn't understandable, but I mean the really, really evil guys, like compared to King Piccolo, Frieza, Cell, Boo, etc. Baby really seems a lot more grounded. Baby's people, the Tuffles, were wiped out by the Saiyans long ago and completely eradicated, with Baby being the sole survivor, becoming a Neo Machine mutant that's sort of like a Tuffle Cell, if that makes sense. He's even worked on a bit by a pretty much alien doctor.
Another thing is GT, like, they be sure to, like, you feel me, look back on other antagonists, you know? Like, other antagonists are brought up in Super too, but I feel like GT does it better. Like, you know, reviving Frieza, you know, that golden Frieza, black Frieza, all of that. The way GT does it, I feel like it's better. And if I do remember correctly, I think there was also, like, a fight scene too, where Goku was, like, in a dream or something, and he was like fighting with all of his former antagonists. That was cool. I also could be remembering wrong. That could be from Super, but I think it was from GT. I don't know for sure. Look, I'll be mixing the two up sometimes. Because it's been, hold on, let me pause again, my fault. But it's been a while since I've watched both of them. I mean, I did rewatch Super like 2 years ago, but
named Dr. Mew.
It's been a minute. It's been a minute.
Unlike
I
Dr.
don't know. I think that's from
Baby
GT though.
actually made his own doctor. Yeah.
All right, and Cell Max garbage. We don't talk about Cell Max.
Baby is a reincarnate of the King of the Tuffles and many others, with almost a sole purpose of revenge. He is sort of in a position like Vegeta was on Namek, where he was confronted with getting.
Vegeta went out horrible, terrible. He thought he was gonna get revenge. He ended up dying, and then the dude he was beefing with, Kakarot, went and got Super Saiyan and then avenged him. Come on now, Vegeta. You went out horrible here.
Revenge on the people who wiped out his
It was still a
race
W,
as
though,
well.
at the end of the
Baby
day, because
also
Frieza still got
takes
clipped.
Vegeta's body, who is the son of the man who destroyed his people, and Baby thinks that all Saiyans are vile, barbaric, ruthless, and he takes it so far, he straight up tells Vegeta that even if he and Vegeta kill each other in battle, he is happy because that is one more dead Saiyan. When I heard that, I actually kind of laughed, because it was kind of a hard line, and he's actually really serious and genuine about his goals. The Tuffles, in Baby's mind, and probably even factually speaking, were a very progressive and peaceful people that did no wrong to get what they deserved, but this warps Baby into becoming exactly the opposite of them. He becomes a barbaric, disgusting Saiyan, and he attacks progressive and peaceful people to the point he will wipe out entire planets to get revenge. The Saiyans taught Baby a reality that warped him into an unrecognizable demon. This is similar to the story of Majin Buu, who was once just a being known as Buu that absorbed the evils of the universe and eventually became corrupted and pure malice, becoming Kid Buu. However, here it is more
like
direct.
Bro, I swear, like, this animation and art style, it just feels so nostalgic. Like, I don't know, bro. Like, I'm getting like a nice feeling from looking at this. Like, it's just like a nice feeling. You know what I'm saying? Is that crazy?
And less
like, I just feel
with
so
the
much
influences
nostalgia.
of Baby's corruption
Like, look
being
at this.
easier
Like, this,
to connect the dots.
This just old. It gives me like a OG feeling. Like I mean, it is a OG feeling. It's mad old, but like it's just nice. It's appealing.
And not
I
just
like
some
animation
old
like
history lesson from Toria. Baby has strange qualities though, unlike Vegeta, who just wanted to axe Frieza and maybe continue the Saiyan line eventually, maybe. Baby wants to force people to be the new Tuffles. He wants to take the freedom and love of the entire universe to make amends for what others did to him and taught him, sort of making this huge cycle of hatred. Taking their freedom is important. Remember how I said freedom was a huge point of the story? This is just a piece of it, but Baby also has a strange quirk arc where he will not take Goku's body at all costs. He only wants to kill Goku. Thematically speaking, this is because Goku is a reflection of Baby, and both Goku and Baby get revenge on the people that wrong them, but it turns them into totally different people. Goku gets revenge on Frieza, but he does it out of compassion and love for others, and doesn't seek to control or hurt anyone because of it. Hell, he even spares Frieza at one point, whereas Baby, as I described, takes it to the utmost extremes. So not only does Baby have mirrors of Vegeta, but also to...
That's crazy how Seth is just so good at power scaling, and he's also like good at analyzing. Like, this is a very good analyzation of GT. We 16 minutes in. I'm intrigued. Let's
Goku a little bit as well. This leads into Goku versus
liking
Baby
the points
Vegeta,
he's
the
making.
first battle, in which
It's
Goku
still
is
super
actually
over
defeated
GT though.
while being surrounded by all of his
Don't get it
friends and
twisted.
family, being controlled and having their freedoms and love stripped away by Baby. And upon being defeated, is only excited and somewhat stoked about Baby's power on his literal deathbed. And Goku has things to learn and remember, so he can't actually die yet. This leads to him training with the Supreme Kais to regain his Saiyan powers, and Supreme Kai is the one who seems more...
They was pulling his tail out. I remember that. Nah, this was mad funny. They was pulling the tail out and everything. He was screaming like
Goku
crazy. This was mad funny.
Beyond Super Saiyan 3 and calls out Super Saiyan 4 numerous times before it actually appears. GT gives the old Supreme Kai a lot of credit and respect, surprisingly, making him very wise and eerily reliable. Even his statement about the Dragon Ball's disturbing nature in Z or giving a lot of power in GT becomes an entire arc. He is basically the god of the universe and very wise, and GT shows that a lot, despite him still being somewhat of a goofball. This god sees something in Goku that nobody else does and has been being foreshadowed throughout all of the series. Now in the manga, not so much, but remember, GT is a continuation of the actual anime, and the anime does in fact foreshadow that Saiyan power is displayed via Uzaru, with the Golden Grade Ape being shown in the anime many years before this, and with Super Saiyan 2 Gohan and Super Saiyan 3 Goku having many Uzaru noises and even cameos at certain points to show their Saiyan powers exploding. Even in the original manga, Goku's actual Saiyan powers were shown with the Uzaru, with those inner Saiyan powers being what helped him overcome the Ultra Divine Water and even defeat King Piccolo. GT is just more continuing this concept and saying, hey, the Uzaru is their true primal form and power that always pops up to show a Saiyan's might. Maybe it should mean something. And I kind of agree. The Uzaru should be kind of important, and always seems like it was going to be for the longest of times. Old Kai just noticed this and thinks it's time to bring out that inner potential he knows the Saiyans have, and this goes even further though, which I'll get into soon. After training with the old Kai, Goku grows his tail back again, well, training, and he returns to face Baby, and once again he is defeated. Him regrowing his tail didn't actually make him grow any stronger, but something changes within him. He begins to care again. Seeing Earth, he is reminded that he hates he can't protect it, and he is disgusted by his own lack of ability. The tail growing back may have given Goku something after all. Like a piece of him has returned physically and a bit mentally as well. Using the Earth and his love for it as a medium, he becomes a Golden Grade Ape, something we knew existed ever since old Dragon Ball Z finally being put on the main screen. Something you'll also learn about Baby, and it's pretty important at this point of the story as it's relevant, is that he is not very conventional even in terms of personality either. One of the big writing strategies for many shonen is to have a very overwhelming powerhouse character, preferably with an ego.
Cell versus Goku is definitely a real underrated fight. I don't hear people talking about this fight a lot. Probably because Super Saiyan 2 Gohan just kind of took all of that light away. But definitely a very good fight. I don't hear a lot of people talk about it.
Eventually have their worldview shattered, and for them to have a breaking point and to freak out as a satisfying destruction of someone we are supposed to be built up to dislike. Examples of this being Frieza and Perfect Cell, most notably, but many other fictions do this as well with varying degrees of success. Take for instance the defeat of Sosuke Aizen from the Bleach series, a very cold, intelligent Machiavellian type antagonist, which many people didn't really like how his character snapped at the end in pursuit of this type of satisfaction for the reader. In another series, One Punch Man, originally a very popular character named Lord Boros was going to snap and get clowned on by Saitama, the One Punch Man, for this reason as well, but with the author One's foresight and input, he found that people liked Boros for him keeping his integrity and stoicism, even upon defeat, unlike many others in shonen stories, and decided to make Boros' defeat more stoic. But Baby also doesn't do this, which for Dragon Ball, especially at this point in the game, is somewhat unique. Whenever he is defeated or struggles, he tends to be genuinely baffled and tries to figure out a solution. Now, while he does get mad that he can't get revenge, it's not the same level as, say, Frieza or Cell. We see this when Goku goes Golden Great Ape, and not only does Baby not have the generic villain snap moment, but he actually gets straight up PTSD from seeing Goku go into the Zaro form and remembers the Saiyans massacring his entire race, which starts to make him not snap in terms of ego, but makes him snap into a more hateful and destructive person. But it actually makes sense here, unlike the others who are just sort of defending their ego. Remember, the influence of the Saiyans had an evil effect on Baby and taught him the evils of the world, so the more he remembers them, the more it actually twists him. And eventually, he starts to go borderline insane, but in a more unique and less destructive way to our opinion of his character. The snapping of Baby's character is brought full circle by him becoming the thing that he fears and hates the most, which is a great ape himself. He has completed the cycle of becoming what he hates, and it only goes further downhill. In contrast,
this writing's crazy. I can't lie. This writing's crazy. I don't want anybody saying that this is a reach, because this makes perfect sense. Everything he's saying is making perfect sense. See, just the writing in all the Dragon Ball is very underrated. Super may have the worst writing out of all of the Dragon Ball shows, but it's like, even Super has good writing. The writing in all of Dragon Ball is just slept on, the whole series as a whole.
Goku stares at the Earth, realizing that the memories and love he has for it and his friends and family are what drive him, and he becomes a Super Saiyan 4. Which is also thanks to Pan. Goku's love turns him into a Super Saiyan 4, while Baby's hatred turns him into a Golden Uzaru. Now, as a writer, why would you not have Baby go Super Saiyan 4 here, alongside Goku? It'd be kind of a twist, right? Like, the Super Saiyan 4 is the new Super...
That's probably what Super would have done. Hold on, nah, there's no way, like, I'm really, like, comparing GT to Super right now. I've always, like, I wouldn't say I was a GT hater, but, like, I always said GT is definitely overhated, and I liked it. I did like GT a lot, but it's like, I feel like the GT supporters are what make me, like, not show as much love. Because the people who do show GT love, they be wilding sometimes. Like, they say some outlandish things. So I feel like that's probably why I don't defend it as much as I should, but... for me, it's things that it does better. There's a lot of things it does better than Super. I'll give it
power up, and if the villain got it as well, how are they gonna beat him?
GT's definitely gonna need a rewatch,
because Baby cells interfere with Vegeta's ability to transform. But remember, in this instance, you are the writer, so you just sort of made up that lore. But why? Is it because Super Saiyan 4 Baby would be too strong, or? Well, maybe, but you could also just sort of make up some lore that the potential of Goku and Vegeta is equal or something in Super Saiyan 4 and even write your way out of that. So why do it? Why make Baby incapable of going Super Saiyan 4? And I think it's because of what it's supposed to represent here. As I said, Goku goes Super Saiyan 4 story speaking due to his desire to protect what he loves, and Baby becomes what he hates to destroy what he hates. And Baby, incapable of even experiencing love anymore, is incapable of understanding what it takes to become a Super Saiyan 4. You also have to realize that Baby not only doesn't really feel love at this point, but also thinks the Great Ape is the most terrifying force in his life, and he is at the apex of his hatred and fears in the Uzaru form, the ultimate force that has created his fate. To him, there is no greater power in his life than what he has actually just turned into that he is. There is no further form or need to transform. This is the apex. Whereas those things do not inhibit Goku, and Goku is free from hatred and pure of heart. Now, I might be seeing what some of you are saying. Then why did Vegeta go Super Saiyan 4 later? Well, for one, Vegeta literally does go Super Saiyan 4 to protect what he loves as well, but he also does it after being exposed to both Bulma and Goku. Now, I think this might be weird to say out loud, but I think Vegeta actually does love Goku, not as much as Bulma and Trunks, but there's something going on there a bit more than just Saiyan homies. Vegeta always has Goku in his heart and mind, even when he thinks he is dead, and he is the last one facing down Omega Shenron for the fate of the Earth. Goku, or Kakarot, is the one who made the destruction of the race not only fate of the Earth. Goku, or
God damn. Chill.
Or Kakarot is the one who made the destruction of their race not a mission of revenge and malice, but one of love and transformation.
Why is
Vegeta
Vegeta
from himself?
naked?
So
Like, what
in
they got
actuality, I
Hell
think Vegeta
nah.
going Super Saiyan 4
They're
and not
tripping.
Baby actually furthers what I'm saying, not dismisses it. Obviously, though, it's just because Baby's cells interfered with his cells. Whatever, you get the idea. While Baby tries to finish his revenge against Goku, just like Vegeta tried against Frieza, Goku, just like he did against Frieza and Baby, goes a step beyond both. While Baby falsely tried to force people to love him by taking their freedoms away, Goku has people love him by helping them be free. And thus, when push came to shove, Baby's false love cracked, and they went back to Goku to empower him to put Baby for good, where genuine love beat fake love. That's my sort of interpretation of it while I was watching it. Now let's talk about Super Saiyan 4 itself. Outside of the story, I think the way it comes out and what it means, how it was foreshadowed, is pretty good. I like it. I think the form might be a little over-designed, maybe, but otherwise, it's very unique, and the demeanor of Goku in it is very cool during this arc. By over-designed, I mean, if you were to throw it in Fortnite, it might look a little awkward compared to, like, Super Saiyan Blue or something. The way he looks at a mirror and it shatters and to show his expectations being blown away, and the line he says to Mr. Satan where he says,
今の俺にできねえことなんか一つもねえんだ
were insanely raw for an introduction, and the fight also features one of the only dual KOs in the series, where the deciding factor was how Baby and Goku treated others to love them. It was pretty beautiful. We also learned that Baby doesn't understand Saiyans as much as he thought he did, which is also very fitting. Also,
I mean,
line...
if Baby understood Saiyans now, like the Saiyans that exist currently, not the Saiyans back then, he probably would not have even been on that path to destruction. Maybe he would have. I don't know, but clearly he was holding a grudge against people who had nothing to do with what happened to them. You feel me? Like, he's stupid.
That Goku says
but he's
when
not
he first
stupid.
starts fighting Baby.
It's confusing. But if you know, then you know.
驚いてんだ
He said, I'm surprised at my own overwhelming strength.
おめえのパンチがくすぐってんだよ
And as Gohan says, Baby couldn't do
kinda
anything
cool.
without borrowing and stealing from others. He really was a baby. Which is also a very fitting quote, foreshadowing the main cast's own hypocrisy, actually, that will actually be unearthed in the Shadow Dragon saga. Which is actually a pretty awesome line in retrospect. That Gohan quote not only applied to Baby, but themselves. After this, there are many more moments, but that is the essential end to Baby. And after this, the ultimate Dragon Ball starting to destroy Earth still, as Baby used them before passing and sent them across the universe. And during this time, Goku takes the place of the Dragon Balls and transports everyone to Planet Plant as Earth is destroyed, and Piccolo sacrifices himself and lets himself die with the Earth, having a conclusion where he really places all into Earth. And before he goes, he says that as long as there are Dragon Balls, things will repeat themselves, foreshadowing the next arcs and taking action in advance against the next threat.
That Piccolo sacrifice, bro, that was beautiful. WS sacrifice, man. So far, bro. So far.
Now, Piccolo's whole story
That's
here
another
is
thing.
like...
That's another thing GT did better. Definitely another thing GT did better. That sacrifice was amazing.
People and humans taking paths to power whenever it's available and things like that, but that's not really necessary for this video. With that, we'll get into the Super 17 saga, and this saga it's weird. First thing to notice right off the bat, and I'm gonna sound
Garbage.
like a hater for this next paragraph here, is its length.
Garbage.
It is 7 episodes long. Yeah, the Baby saga was 40. And this one is 7. Shadow Dragons are about 16-ish. As a reminder, the Copy Vegeta arc in Dragon Ball Super is about 5 episodes, making Super 17 closer to Copy Vegeta than
That's
the
crazy.
Shadow Dragon arc in terms of length. And not only is it basically filler length, but it is also pretty much filler quality, more or less, with also an insane drop in art quality as well. Like, look at his fucking head. The arc features a lot of villains coming back from the dead and basically
Yeah!
all one-shotted
See,
off
nah,
screen while
like-
not saying a single word
Yeah,
of
they
dialogue.
was bringing
I'm
back,
actually not joking. They never say a single word of dialogue, so they don't add
Not a
anything
single
to the
word is
story other
crazy,
than they came back to life at one point.
Yeah,
they even have
that's-
Nappa
nah,
come
nah,
back.
nah, yeah, nah. Now that I'm thinking about it, that's low key a little. They forced it a little bit. They forced it a little bit. I take back the statement I made. I mean, no, I don't. I still think they did better than Super, but Nah, it's not
A
that
guy
good.
who has known Vegeta since he was a child and was with him and his comrades almost his entire life. And when they see each other, Nappa says not a single word. He just groans. Even General Blue has dialogue when he's in the afterlife, but not Nappa. And Vegeta doesn't even try to beat Nappa down and try to convert him to good or anything. He just straight up axes him and vaporizes him from existence instantly. He doesn't even try. And Goku's literal brother, Raditz, doesn't even come back. I don't know, in this continuity, Bardock is probably considered evil too, and we just never see him. It was a huge wasted opportunity. It's just really weird and jarring, as well as disappointing. The actual Super 17 fight is also out of nowhere. Apparently 17 always just was greater than Cell, but just didn't have the right programming yet, which is what? Okay, at least Super Saiyan 4 and Uzaru and the Saiyan power had some type of build up, and I have no idea where this was stated for 17 or implied. So let's just say it was implied to get to the actual fight and dynamic. 17 doesn't actually have any relationship to Goku, literally almost at all, other than being programmed to kill him back in the day. He doesn't even talk to him the entire fight. He just laughs like a psycho and is more of less silent with no dialogue. I don't know what it is with this arc and no dialogue villains. Goku also has this strange obsession with only shooting ki blast the entire fight, despite actually theorizing that 17 was absorbing his power. He legit doesn't try punching him as a Super Saiyan 4 almost ever. He then launches a 10 times Kamehameha, his strongest attack at 17, so he can absorb that too. Now, in Goku's credit, and Mew knows this as well, it could have been like a Yakon situation where he was hoping Super 17 couldn't absorb that much power, but the build-up is still weird as hell. He then calls Super 17 so awesome, despite almost all of Super 17's strength just basically being ripped from Goku himself. So, very weird and not satisfying. Also, 17 looks very goofy. Like, what the fuck?
Oh, yeah. Disgusting.
Now, if I had to try, the lesson of the arc could be showing how the afterlife is becoming unstable, as is shown at the end of GT by Shenron, as well as how Goku's philosophy of reformation over killing is more effective. As if he was able to reform these villains, they wouldn't be coming for revenge after death. But then you just have Vegeta one-shot Nappa, and it's like, man. I consider this arc borderline filler for a lot of reasons, even though it's not. And maybe people would also agree that it works more as an extension to the Shadow Dragon saga than its own standalone arc. And even then, since this video is just my honest opinion and analysis, I was really not impressed by it at all. Although I do know that it does have a place in some people's hearts, like the way that they fought on the floating islands or the pillars in the mountains. All that was very unique atmosphere, and I understand that. And there were some okay, cool qualities about it. I'm not saying there's no good qualities, but I'm just saying overall, it really, compared to the baby arc, it was disappointing, especially with the ability to bring back all the old villains at once, and you just sort of barely do anything with it. It was really weird. Now, to get into something I was impressed with, though, the Shadow Dragon saga. This arc has a very unspoken beauty to it, which was foreshadowed ever since Gohan's baby quote and Piccolo's sacrifice, and all the way back to old Kai learning that they were using Dragon Balls to try and fix their problems, even in Dragon Ball Z way back in the day. In this arc, Shenron says he will not be the human lapdog any longer and becomes the enemy in the form of the 7 evil dragons. This is an insane concept, as the Dragon Balls were basically the force that allowed the cast to almost sideline all consequences for most of the series. Someone dies, get Shenron. The Earth gets destroyed, get Shenron. Need a power-up? Get Shenron. Shenron was the huge looming force of reassurance for everyone that made many negativities in life seem to vanish and be of no consequence, making life and death somewhat of a paradise that then turns on them. This is by far one of the most interesting concepts for a villain you could even conceive of if you had to make a continuation of Dragon Ball, period. It really is like the pinnacle of what you could come up with, and the way it is executed is actually pretty decent. Well, depending on a few things. Now, you can call me out for headcanon or not here, but this is a theory I have for GT leading up to the well-accepted good ending that pretty much everyone agrees the ending is good, and I'll also go over that as well. Throughout the arc, we meet the many dragons and learn what wishes created them and how Shenron helped the gang to make their current enemy before them. Some Shenrons, like Oceanus Shenron, even have a pseudo-Dragon Ball-like effect where they actually overly help a bunch of people to the point they all become lazy, drunken, and useless while hurting other creatures in the process. The first Shenron is Hey Shenron, the 2-star Shenron, who without Pan and Giru, Goku may have actually lost to due to his nature of holding back and getting carried away with having fun. Hayes drops some good foreshadowing of how the arc is going to go, in which he says those who persevere will be the ones standing. This is how the entire arc will go, and some Shenrons have unique ways of telling a message, such as how Rage Shenron was the wish for Goku to come back to life to fight Nappa and Vegeta, in which Rage Shenron, by over-relying on his own power, basically destroys himself and loses, just like Goku did against Vegeta. And the lesson Goku learned there is what destroyed Rage Shenron. There's another interesting line from Naturon Shenron, who says the level at which their heart is in this is what determines victory, as Goku can't bring himself to hurt Pan and would rather die and let the world be destroyed than to do so. While there are many little nuances like the Rage death in the arc, I want to get into what I was really interested in, and those being Nova and Sin Shenron, and why I think Sin Shenron is one of the best villains in Dragon Ball, period. Now, Nova Shenron, before we get to that, like all the other Shenrons, is almost like a yokai evil dragon thing that represents certain elements of nature. And in fact, Rage Shenron is pretty much like a generic yokai depiction. I'm not even joking. This is fitting as obviously the Dragon Ball's unbalanced nature itself, and Nova is a brother of another Shenron named Ice, who represents coldness, while Nova represents heat and the sun, etc. The importance of Ice alongside Nova is that Ice represents the norm among the corrupted dragons, while Nova represents the abnormal. Nova was the 4-star Dragon Ball originally, and was Goku's precious heirloom from many years ago. And he also held onto this ball for many, many years, and even put it on Gohan's head at one point at the start of Z. Goku's pure-heartedness and positive energy has an effect on the ball, making its corruption less than the others, which made Nova actually eventually turn on Sin Shenron and even let Goku finish off Ice Shenron, with Goku making a sort of friendly rivalry with Nova due to Nova actually sparing Pan earlier. But that's something that needs to be remembered. Nova is considered good for sparing Pan. Keep that in mind. Jot it down on your notes or something. Nova considered good for sparing Pan. Then comes in Sin Shenron, who basically kills Nova right away. Sin's introduction is about telling Goku about how he gave him his life, with the current state of the Earth being his fault, and the Dragon Ball is helping Goku in his ambitions and pursuit of happiness over and over. Sin tells him not to, and the Dragon Ball is helping Goku in his ambition.
Oh my god. Holy.
In pursuit of happiness over and over. Sin tells him not to ask for this help any longer. And in a fight, Sin overpowers Goku totally, and he can actually use the 10 times Kamehameha. And just as he is about to finish Goku off, he decides, I don't have to do it myself, I guess, and decides to try and drop Goku from the sky onto a sword down below. This is the first weird thing he does, as when you actually watch and listen to Sin's dialogue, he is proud of his strength, but he doesn't seem so egotistical that he thinks Goku is below killing or something. Remember, Sin and Omega Shenron can actually sense ki, so he'd actually know if there are people to stop Goku from getting impaled, and I'm not actually joking about this. Eventually we get to Nova's return after Sin killed him, but it seems Nova has joined Sin to defeat Goku and Vegeta. As he watches Nova beat up base Goku and Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta, Sin actually monologues to himself while observing that Nova could have easily killed Goku in one blow since he was in base form, yet didn't. That statement is nuclear, alright? When I say that, it is actually sort of mind-blowing a bit. Now, we know Nova was good or whatever, so of course he didn't one-shot him. But Sin just said, I know you could have killed base Goku in one hit, yet didn't. He straight up acknowledges this fact. So let's get into the significance of that statement and why I'm harping on it. Sin and Omega Shenron both absolutely combo hit, blast, and shoot every main cast member in the show numerous times. He straight up death beams Bulma in her tank, and she lives with scrapes and bruises. He kicks every Saiyan in base as a Super Saiyan. He even kicks Mr. Satan directly, and Mr. Satan, basically a human, and does not kill him. Now remember how he just said, I know you could have killed Goku in one hit, yet didn't. Sin Shenron, or Omega Shenron, is also able to kill them in one hit, yet doesn't. He is stronger than Super Saiyan 4 Goku, Nova, anybody in base, just like Nova could have one-tapped, especially Bulma, Mr. Satan, and Pan. And in fact, did you notice Ice, who is considered one of the more evil, cold-hearted Shenron, didn't kill Pan when he easily could have done so as well? Now you might be saying, The show is PG, of course they won't kill anybody, but that's not true, because many people, and innocent people, die in this show. And Vegeta is literally impaled and electrocuted, and honestly one of the most gruesome scenes in the whole show. And Mr. Satan didn't have to get kicked by Omega Shenron, neither did anybody else have to get attacked or blasted by him and survive. Yes, basically, Omega Shenron is sparing them, intentionally, and that's when the arc really started to click for me. That weird feeling people have watching this, like, this doesn't make sense. It started to make more sense, and I always viewed the Shadow Dragons as just these
Oh, an insane analyzation is about to come out.
pure evil manifestations, but in the end, just like, say, Piccolo being an evil manifestation of Kami, they had something a bit more to them. You could argue that they do this subconsciously, which is also acceptable, but Omega has no internal monologue except for when he faces Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta, where he is just shocked that Gogeta could beat him around so easily. Otherwise, outspoken dialogue doesn't have to be honest or genuine, and the actions of a character show their true character more than their words. Omega, even with the ability to stop Goku from receiving power from others, actually allows him to many times. Allows Vegeta to go to Super Saiyan 4, and even allows others to buy time, even when they clearly could never if he didn't want them to. It's almost like how Beerus gave a show in Super, but maybe a bit more genuine. Omega Shenron actually does want to eradicate all life in the universe, even the narrator says this, but I'd say only if he is not proven wrong. He tells Goku he could just stop trying numerous times, and that Goku would just go to heaven and live peacefully if he did. And Goku is actually shocked to hear Shenron say this at first, rather than taking it as banter. He even says over and over that they clearly don't understand why he is there still. Eventually, as he fights Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta, Goku's weakness of goofing off causes Omega to get the upper hand, and they are brought to base form again. And Omega launches another minus energy ball at them, and they now have to face him in base form. Even when he is about to throw a minus energy ball at Earth again, he almost specifically states that, even at this size, it could still destroy Earth. This size implies he almost intentionally is suppressing it, or is not launching it as big as he could have, either out of ego, subconsciously, or consciously. Omega saying they don't understand why he is there is also an important line, as it is actually followed up on in the ending very specifically, where Shenron asks Goku that question again. Omega even tells Goku to not to self-destruct on him. I'm not even joking, even though Vegeta knows it wouldn't actually work, and Omega Shenron is smarter than any of them. Omega Shenron is the first person in the whole series to deduce why Goku and Vegeta couldn't fuse, and it took Trunks a bit of time to think it through. So Omega, who has Shenron's abilities and knowledge of the characters, may know Goku and Gang's limits better than most people actually realize. As Goku fights this minus energy ball, he pushes into a power able to contest it, and Shenron powers the ball up even further quite casually and then overpowers Goku's new amp, making everyone think he's dead. Now, Shenron could have genuinely killed Goku here, or pushed him to a certain point on purpose, as even after this, Omega is clearly not trying to kill the other characters when he easily could, as he said about Nova. The Goku vs. Omega ball clash is interesting because it is sort of a parallel to Goku vs. Kid Buu, in which back then, Goku had the Dragon Balls to empower him to eventually overpower Kid Buu, but here he has to awaken something within himself to save the Earth on his own and survive. This is where we get to the climax of GT, the ending, the Universal Spirit Bomb, or Super Ultra Genki Dama. The conclusion of GT is very mysterious and interesting, as Goku collects Genki, or positive energy, to put down the amalgamation of negative energy, Omega Shenron, and while holding the Spirit Bomb, Goku gets blasted by Omega and takes very minor damage while holding this bomb. This is either Omega just underestimating him, or Goku is a bit different, but I think it may be due to Goku changing a bit as well as Omega underestimating him at first. Omega eventually tries launching a ball at him too, but it doesn't actually do anything, and Goku doesn't seem to be bothered and continues to gather Genki from all over the universe and vaporizes Omega Shenron. After the defeat of Omega Shenron, the real Shenron appears again, but things are different this time. The sky isn't black when he appears, he wasn't called upon, and he heals Goku on his own will to speak with him, in which he asks Goku what Omega is demanding the answer to. Do you know why the Shadow Dragons appeared? In which Goku finally says, yes. But the strangest thing that happens now is that Shenron just says, let's go now. And Goku says, oh, I guess it's that time. Alright, see you guys. Implying he knows where they are going out of nowhere. He flies off and fuses with the Dragon Ball, and after saying goodbye to all his friends, he vanishes from them over and over again, and despite wearing his clothes are left behind in other places. most commonly accepted
on, is this-
explanation, and this is not my
Bro, this is such a good video, bro.
explanation. This is explanation many people
This
have
is
come
one of
up
the
with. Is
best
that
Set the
Goku
Programmer
undergoes
videos
something
I've
called
ever
ascension to
watched.
heaven
This
in
is
broad
beautiful.
daylight, and this is a belief in Eastern religion that you can die and then come back to life, but aren't really dead. In which, you know, the version of yourself one knows dies, and your true self then awakens afterward. This is very common in stories all around the world. I mean, even Jesus arguably did something like this too in the Bible. And for this to happen in Goku's case, he needs to eliminate his physical form for his true form to rise, and he must be virtuous and pure-hearted, which Goku is. So when Goku comes out of that crater, he's basically born again and different now, which is why Omega says, "Who are you?" which is a line usually reserved for fusions, which are usually different people. The Shenrons in Dragon Ball seem to be based on a Shinto ritual in which they are from another dimension that Namekians learn to summon. They are beings of pure light, and these dragons or Shenrons connecting the heavens and the earth, and when you ascend to heaven, you ride a dragon to become beyond just a mortal to the dragon's version of heaven. This is why when Goku does ride off on Shenron, he seems ethereal and weird and all understanding. He is beyond just a mortal, and that is why he is seen even hundreds of years later, even though he should be long dead. He probably ascended with Shenron, and that may seem confusing, but you have to remember Dragon Ball is a Japanese story, and in Japan these types of stories and legends are more common and easier to understand, but I hope that all makes sense. Either that, or Goku just got stronger holding the universal spirit bomb, Genki counters Shadow Dragon energy, and he fused with Shenron like he did with Nova, and he figured out why Shenron wanted to go with him on his own. He became Super Shenron Goku or something. Anyway, now remember how I said GT was about freedom and self-discovery? Well, with this ending, Goku finally, after his entire life, is truly free and has found his true self. And after everyone relying on him and the Dragon Balls, Goku can finally know true peace for the rest of eternity with Shenron and the Dragon Balls, while everyone he has given love to can now live their lives freely and to their own ability.
Yo. This is a crazy video, bro.
Almost like a
This was
moving
a
painting.
crazy video, bro. Not gonna lie, bro. Set the Programmer. This was one of the best analysis. Is that even a word? Analysis? Whatever. It was amazing. Amazing. Fire video. The original link to this video can be found in the description. Make sure you leave in the comments any other reactions you want me to react to. And with that, we're done.